Okay, so my next question is, given the derivatives, how do you find the original function of both placental and fetal weight at 112 days?
Alright, thanks to our wonderful teacher, Dr. Canolvi. He taught us that when you have the derivative, in order to go in reverse, you just have to find the antiderivative, and that'll give you the original function of just weight over time.
Okay, so what is the placental volume at 0 days?
So they gave us a chart for that, for the placental volume. And basically at 0 days, the placenta would be 0 millimeters because there was no time for it to grow. And the fetus grows before the placenta does, so it makes sense that the value would be 0.
Okay. So how do you find the inflection point for the placental volume data?
So, same thing as we did with the Forbes data. They'll give us a pretty function. We still put it in the polynomial degree 4 because it was still in 4 days. And you find the second derivative, set it equal to 0, and then you will be given inflection points.
And how did you find that using the Forbes data?
Oh, Forbes data, it's the same way. We already had the equation from popping the graph into Excel.
Right.
Still in the polynomial 4th degree, set it equal to 0, and then you'll get inflection points.
Is it possible to compare these two directly?
I'd say no, just because the placenta information from Forbes is grams per day, and the information from the chart that was given to us is volume per day. So,
Right.
you'd get the same gist, but it might not be comparable because they're not in the same units.
Okay. So what week does the inflection point occur in both sets of data?
So for the Forbes placenta, we had 152.79 and 224.86, and then in the, just gonna call it volume placenta, we had 107.2, and then 223.88.
Okay. So do both inflection points have the same time period?
A little bit. The first weeks obviously don't match up, but these are both week 32 in gastration, so they both have the second inflection points happen at the same time.
Okay. So what does this say about the data? Do you trust it?
It says that definitely at week 32 that both the grams of the placenta stop growing at the certain time, and the volume at the placenta also stops growing at week 32. We could trust the data because it does line up, but I wouldn't, just because, you need more trustworthy data. You can't just go off of 2 pages, especially when the units don't even match, and expect them to be workable.
Right, okay. So what medical reasons do you think this entails? Why is it the way it is?
So, obviously the second one lined up, but possibilities of why the first ones don't is there's always mutations, or the fetus starts forming before the placenta, so obviously the fetus would have a faster growth rate than the placenta would. And then the placenta grows faster, once the fetus starts growing, in order to catch up with it to provide it the nutrients that it needs. So it would be growing faster at that point. And then the placenta reaches a certain point, probably week 32, where it stops growing. So then it would start to slow down while the baby continues to grow. And then after that, the baby would no longer have space to grow since the placenta is done. thus slowing down its growth there. Also, in the Forbes paper, it said that calcium content of the placenta increases, suggesting some arterial degradation, which would slow down the growth rate, while the baby obviously has the nutrients that it's feeding off the placenta, which would increase the growth for that. And yeah, those are all the
Okay.
medical reasons that I could think of.
Well, that's all the questions I have. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. I hope you do wonderful on your project.